Welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. With everybody struggling to find components now, I thought I'd do a few reviews of components that I've been able to find. The first up on this is 308 brass from Peterson. Now, a lot of people have bought Peterson, but I think most have not yet. They're a fairly new company, but especially among the bench rest and F-class crowds, I've seen a lot of really good comments about them and about the quality of their brass. So, you know, I normally shoot in my 308 F-class gun Lapua. And I have Hornady match brass as well, and then occasionally for practice and things I'll shoot Winchester because it has proven to be good brass as well. But on my Lapua and my Hornady brass, I neck turn them. I do all kinds of very specific things to make sure the extension is just perfect. And I've shown some of that, but we'll show more as we move through the loading of this Peterson brass. But I thought I'd show it to you. It's beautiful brass and annealed exactly down to the end of the shoulder here by discoloration anyway, oxidation there. And they're all extremely consistent across here. They all hit exactly the same point. So I don't know for sure. I would suspect then this is induction annealed. But anyway, really nice looking brass. Comes in this really, a decent ammo box too, which is kind of a cool way for them to market and do that. And I appreciate that. That's nice because I don't have to go out and get more boxes, which I have a few of, but this will be nice to help me separate this type of brass too. So let's take a look at a few basic dimensions. First of all, let's take a look at using our headspace comparator from the head to the middle of the shoulder, and let's just see how consistent that this brass is coming right out of the box. Now, it's not been sized or anything. So 1.625. And let's grab another one here. .625. 1.625. And these are 4 in a row I just grabbed out of the box. Didn't pre-sort them or anything. 1.625. So that's awesome. We'll grab a couple more here. We'll just grab them out of the middle of the box and let's see what we get there. But I think, yeah, 1.624 and a half. Half a thousandths. 1.625. So that's awesome. 6 in a row and a half a thousandths, and maybe that could be it's definitely within the accuracy of these calipers. So that's a really good reading overall. So let's go ahead and take this off, and we'll use the exact same caliper, so we have the same general error, if there is any here. Well, there are always some error, but we'll just do overall length now. So let's check a random group of overall length dimensions. 2.005 and a half. 2.002 and a half. Same exact dimension. So let's go here. Oh, sorry, that's not the exact same dimension. It was 3 thousandths shorter. Okay. 2.002 and a half. I can check this first one too, because those two repeated. Maybe I did something wrong here. Yeah, 2.002 and a half. So I had it off axis somehow. Let's just keep checking. Get that right on there. 2.2002. 2.002 and a half, and this should be our 6th one. Just randomly grab it out of here. Get that on there. 2.002 and a half. Sorry, I keep saying that wrong. So excellent. So again, overall length at best I saw was a half a thousandths variation. So right out of the box, consistency is a beautiful thing on this brass. So let's check a couple other things. Let's check the diameter down at the base. And let's go just above the extractor groove here so we can do it repeatably. 0.467 and a half. All right, so let's grab another one. 0.467. Now, I'm sure with this taper there's going to be some error to me grabbing them, but I'm being pretty close, I think, here. 0.467. And we'll grab one more. 1.466 6.5. So again, within a half a thousandths anywhere in those measurements. So that's pretty awesome. Incredibly good, in fact, for a brand new brass. I've seen a lot of other brass vary much more than that. Now, of course, I'll go through and fully resize these before I shoot them, and then we'll once fire them, and then after I once fire them, then I'll go ahead and measure them, neck turn them, and just true them out that way too. But I suspect they're going to be really, really good in that. When I neck turn, I'll show this a little bit on the other one. But I have a Century 21 neck turning system, and what I've been able to do is on the Hornady and on the Lapua, neck turn to exactly the same wall thickness. Now, why that's important is I have an S bushing die set that I'm able to adjust the neck tension with, but I don't have to change it. If I can get this brass to run exactly the same wall thicknesses, the Lapua and the Hornady I was able to in the neck, well, then it just makes that job much more consistent. You're not changing anything, you're not messing up anything. So we'll see if we can do that here. We'll take some wall thickness measurements again, and we'll check it out and see if we can. If not, no big deal. I've got other bushings, but it'd be nice if everything's the same as with the other brass. So anyway, first impressions on the Peterson brass. Yeah, thumbs up. That's a really beautiful brass, really nice appearance to it. Well, of course, most new brass does look nice, but then the dimensions are very consistent. Now, if you saw the video in the Grendel series about the Hornady bulk brass, yeah, this isn't comparable at all to that. this head case, and I'll take a picture here. I've got a new tool here. I'll show you just a second for the channel. Well, we'll take a close-up view, a microscopic view of this, and play here just before we close this video of the quality of the head before it's fired. Because if you saw the one for the Grendel series, the bulk brass was really not good. There were a lot of defects in it. It looked like it had been formed cold, perhaps with fluid trapped in it when it was formed. Different issues going on there as well, besides the head case, incipient head case separation sign. Just before we go to looking at the view with a microscope of the head and things like that, I wanted to show a couple other things. I forgot to mention that this Peterson brass that I got is small rifle primer. Now, this will be new to my loads and load developments because I've only shot large rifle primer, the 308 and in 308, the Lapua and the Hornady and the Winchester are all large rifle primer. Now, I anneal, and so I really haven't had an issue with case life yet. All of my Lapua brass and Hornady brass are up to 8 times fired, so that's good. The Winchester is about 6, or a couple behind that. But they're all large rifle. Now, my understanding, and you please comment below if this is not exactly correct, but the reason a lot of people want this is a couple things. Some believe that they get a better ignition, flame ignition with the smaller rifle primer, but a lot of them want it when they shoot high pressure. The smaller rifle primer pocket lasts longer. And so these are generally I shoot F-class rounds or close to that for practice. So these are really pretty high pressure rounds. Now, I've not seen a problem yet, but in looking at different reviews of this so far, one guy had up to 20 loads. In fact, Bolt Action Reloader, you can go check him out. He was doing a recent thing a few months ago, I believe, on 6.5 Creedmoor, and he went up 20 rounds with 20 firings with small rifle primers. And so pretty good, pretty cool, and so I hope that's going to be the case here. So, and then one other thing I want to mention too is they put this card in there, and this is nice because this is a brass manufacturer that's thinking about reloaders, not just thinking about ammunition on down the line, selling this and just giving reloaders a few leftovers. They talk about optimal performance adjusting your load. Now, the context of this is really says basically your exterior rifle dimensions and all, they vary. They're close to, the external is close to the same, but the internal vary because of the way they're drawn, way they're manufactured, different wall thicknesses, etc. So they vary between manufacturers. So they're basically saying, so therefore your internal volume changes. And we know that. Those who have shot different brands of brass, you'll see different results and have to adjust your powder charge. But this is just a good, common sense, kind kind of caution for you. And really not even just a caution, it's really trying to help us out, help us reloaders out. So I'm saying, hey, you may have to adjust your powder charge to get the best results. And then they have some quotes about that the Peterson brass helping to cut their groups in half and things like that. Well, we're going to test that and see. And I really hope that's true. But I do appreciate that, this idea that, hey, you may need to adjust your load because our brass is probably going to be a little different than Lapua or the other people's dimensions, especially on case capacity. So I like that. They're thinking about us, and they're thinking about trying to make their customers happy in the end, because we all want to shoot small groups, and they're giving us a heads up that, hey, think ahead a little bit. So when we do actually fire these, we'll start off with a standard load just to once fire them, but then we're going to come back and change those charge weights just a little bit from the optimum that I've already developed for my Lapua brass. And we'll probably go ahead and we can check case capacity too in grains of water. I've got all that equipment to set that up, so we'll check that too. But anyway, I thought it was pretty cool. One thing I thought we might check is concentricity of the case. So what we'll be able to do with this gauge without a bullet in it yet is we'll be able to check is the neck true to the main body of the case. So this datums, these ball bearings are what this will set on. This is Sinclair concentricity gauge. Now if you notice, this is a grizzly dial indicator. So I got this because it goes to 10,000ths of an inch. So you'll see each one of these major indicators is 1,000th of an inch. And then up here we start racking up larger digits. But so all the small indicators then are 10,000ths of an inch, those tick marks there. So let's see how this looks. Let's go ahead and keep this, you got to keep pressure down on this gauge and keep it on there to get a good reading. But alright, so you get the peak, you just go back and check it again. Just to make sure you're rolling this right. So that is about 7/10,000ths of an inch. So less than 1,000th of an inch. Let's check another one and see how it looks. And that one, see how that wildly swings? That's me lifting off the datum here. You got to kind of keep pressure in this thing and keep it down on those datums to get a good reading as you rotate it around. That one's less. That's about 4/10,000ths of an inch. Let's try another one. That was me sliding it around again. Right there, it's so sensitive. You get off of that bearing in the back here. So that's around 5/10,000ths of an inch. So 1/1000. I'll check one more here. About 7 that way. Yeah, let's see if I'm doing that. That's me doing that one. Maybe 2 that way. So about 9/10,000. So just under 1,000th of an inch. So that's actually a pretty good result for brand new brass that's not been fired. When this fire forms to your chamber, then you'll see this number change, and it'll be the accuracy, a reflection of the accuracy of your chamber. And then when you resize it, you'll get the idea of the accuracy of your resizing process and your resizing die. And then the last thing which you'll do, of course, is check. You'll put the bullet out here, and you do the same thing. And that's what's really, well, it's really critical, is that the bullet is in the same axis as your case, and especially the neck. So you start down the bore true instead of, you know, at an angle. But this is a good first check. Within less than 1,000th of an inch in all of them that we checked, I'd say that's more than acceptable. We'll check them again, like say after we fire and if we start loading again. But pretty good result. All right, just wrapping up introduction to our Peterson brass. I've gone ahead and fired a few. I loaded them, and I'll show you a few of the components, but basically it's Reloader 15, 44 grains of Reloader 15 with 168 grain AMAX bullets, which you can't unfortunately find anywhere now. They shoot really well in this gun. And then also then Varget, 42 grains of Varget, and these are with 175 grain Nosler Custom Competition. Now these are both loads that I have known to shoot very well in Lapua brass and Hornady match brass using large rifle primers. Now that brass has all been neck turned and highly developed and measured, etc. So that's maybe not quite fair in a full, brand new case, but they're also not loads that are at the very, very max. They're high-end loads, but not at the very, very max. So I didn't want to push our brass too far. But I think you'll see maybe I pushed a little bit far. I mean, not terrible. And maybe it's just, maybe it's just getting used to, these high pressure rounds with small rifle primers. And if you have experience with this, please post in the comments below, because it's sort of something I see that makes me a little uneasy, but I'll show you that in a minute. So anyway, the rounds themselves, just beautiful. The brass is just really, really nice looking brass, high quality brass. So we'll put that back. But I wanted to show you some of the fired rounds. Now I fired 15 of each one yesterday. Now, also remember when I tell you this, the pressure signs I'm going to show you, it was 37 degrees outside. That's 50 degrees Fahrenheit lower than what these loads were developed and shot in, pretty close to 50 degrees. So, a lot of that could be temperature change. But that's why I shot Varga and Reloader 15. Varga's not too temperature sensitive. Reloader 15 a little bit more so. Not bad, but it is temperature sensitive. Both being stick powders though too. So what did I see? Well, I don't know how well you can see this. We're going to show you in another view here, just a little bit closer. But there's the small rifle primers, while they're still flush, maybe slightly above flush, it's cratering. And so you see the firing pin striking here and the metal being displaced around the firing pin. Now let me show you what that means. We'll use our scope here. So I got a new microscope we're going to use to examine things a little bit closer than we had before. And I'll show you on this app what this looks like. So this is a live view of that end of the brass. And so you can see here, the edge of the primer is still sort of normal. That's fine. But right around the strike, it did crater. It has displaced material up around the firing pin. Now, again, not having a lot of experience with this Peterson brass, or not just Peterson brass, small rifle primer brass, as you can see there in the picture. It's just not clear to me if that's really an issue or not. Now, these are federal small rifle primers, okay? So, they're not the heaviest cup. I can try CCI 41s, some Magnum primers that I have. We can try that next. And so I'm not too worried about it. Definitely the loads were not extreme in pressure, but again, brand new brass, less case capacity, and a cold day. It's probably what this is really doing. So we're going to shoot these again in a warmer day. But I wanted to get at least some I can get through one-time firing before we check that out. Because what I want to do is go through the same prep I go through on all my brass I shoot in this particular rifle that I use for entry-level F-class. And that is, we're going to check, we're going to do neck thickness here. Now my calipers are freaking out. Hang on, I'll get a new set. All right, let's try this with a set of calipers that are working. But what I want to do first is check the thickness of the brass. And so that's 16 thousandths of the wall thickness on the brass. We'll check a couple different places. Now that's up near the neck. 15.5, I'd say that repeats pretty well. 14 there. 16 there. Just see how well, because this isn't the best way to measure the thickness of the neck, but it's what I have on hand. 14 there. So, maybe 1,000 and a half variation as it goes around the case. And that's probably a lot of that's my measurement error. But what you want to do when we do neck turning is you want that to be exactly the same. And so you run a mandrel down the inside, which sets the inside diameter, and it aligns it to the center line of the case. And then you turn material off the outside. And I got a nice little device to do that. So we'll do that in another video, but I just thought I'd mention to you, that'll be the next step for this brass, to get it to the exact same level, and I'll try to do the exact same wall thickness that I do on my Lapua and Hornady. So anyway, I'm really impressed with the brass. For a first time exposure to it, it's pretty cool. I probably would have gone first time exposure to a new brass and used large rifle primers, but it was not available. But I was able to get through Creedmoor Sports, get the small rifle primers, and so far very impressed with the brass, and we'll continue our study.